What's going on, everybody? My name is Justin Gotzi for theathleteinquirer.com. Thank you so much for checking out tonight's video. Tonight, guys, we're here talking about the San Diego Chargers here in our Professional Wrestling Inquirer video. Like I said, we're here talking about the San Diego Chargers as they continue to tell their players that they are not re-signing them during the 2015 year unless your name is Philip Rivers. So today, guys, we're here talking and regarding it to free safety Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle has been with San Diego since the 2007 year when he was a second-round draft pick, 37th overall in the 2007 NFL Draft. Since then, he has been a three-time All-Star, a two-time first-team All-Pro, three-time second-team All-Pro, interceptions leader in 2011 was in the National Football League. He was also named San Diego Chargers Defensive Player of the Year in 2011 and 2013. And all that has given him not a opportunity to re-sign with the team that originally drafted him. Now, what is being reported as to what it is right now, there's been a couple of stories right now that's going on, is that San Diego will not talk to Eric Weddle for a contract during the 2015 year. Did not say that they're going to pick up talks after the season. Another report is saying the Chargers have informed Eric Weddle that they will not discuss an upgrade to his contract. His agent said that they will be parting ways after the year. Eric will be very disappointed. I'm very disappointed in San Diego if this is the real story around it. But Eric Weddle has done a whole lot for San Diego. I've already read off his repertoire of awards and what he's been noted for in San Diego. He's a great character. He is a guy who's right now is growing a beard. The guy said he will not cut his beard or shave off his beard until the San Diego Chargers win a Super Bowl. So 2015 is going to make it or break it for the San Diego Chargers if they want to keep that beard around. But needless to say, when it comes to a legitimate thing, Eric Weddle is no doubt in my mind a top 5 safety in the National Football League. In general, if you put all the 5 free safeties, Eric Weddle is easily in there. Like I said, he's a very exciting, he is always a guy that can make those big hits. He can, he's always reliable in San Diego, and that's why they've kept him around for for this long. San Diego in this year's draft, they drafted a free safety out of Texas State. I don't know his name at the tip of my tongue right now. I think his name is Craig Major. He is coming over, possibly going to end up replacing Eric Weddle. San Diego is a team that's right now on their defensive side of the ball that needs a lot of help. The Chargers do not have that legitimate, excellent defensive backs. This is a team that has gone and worked with, a very complicated defensive back score over the past couple of years. When you're going, you don't want to rely on the San Diego Chargers, the defense when it goes to, long range situations, the deep pass. You rarely see a quarterback throw in Eric Weddle's direction because he's the guy that really stands out. I mean, if you look at Chargers past, cornerbacks that just get blown in coverage, guys like Richard Crawford, I'm a big fan of his, but he gets blown in coverage. Marcus Gilchrist was the ultimate, example of you can always throw to Gilchrist's side of the field, and you can always expect, a 25 to 15 or 15 yard to 25 yard gain. It's just, he was just dominated through the air, and nothing was going his way. But San Diego as a whole, they have got to keep Eric Weddle around if they're going to try and get bigger, and they really need to work, around somebody in their defensive back score. They put down the money for Brandon Flowers earlier in the offseason. Craig Major is not that guy. They were thinking about putting Craig Major over at safety. I know the Chargers have gotten better at cornerback. They have guys like Steve Williams. They got, Patrick Robinson. They're just, like I said, you got Brandon Flowers there. Chris Davis is a guy who's still in that, building movement. There's still a lot to work around, and develop, guys like Chris Davis. So it's a really excellent work in progress in San Diego. But for the Chargers not to go out there and re-sign their pride and joy on their defense, a guy that they will keep over anybody else, and just decide during a late time in the offseason, in a time where I can understand San Diego is trying to keep as much money as they can within the organization because they won a new stadium. They put a lot of money out there on Orlando Franklin to bolster up that offensive line. Philip Rivers, or it's basically at the time where it says, do you want to re-sign Philip Rivers and keep all the money that you want, or do you want to go out there and spend money on Eric Weddle? Is he replaceable? I don't want to say that to disrespect him, but he can be. Eric Weddle, like I said, is a guy that can, if anything's thrown his way, you expect him to be a playmaker, and that's what he is. But, like I said, it's just that money situation in San Diego right now, which is really going to hurt the team going forward, because a lot of money is being put into, potential, stadium adjustments, because the Chargers do have to, dig deep in those pockets to get, the money that they need in order to, get like a down payment on a stadium. Even if they are sharing it with the Raiders. The Raiders and the Chargers do, so they really got to budget their money well. But if a stadium does not really come into fruition right now, Qualcomm Stadium is not the best looking stadium. I love that stadium to death. To me it looks good, but improvements do need to happen. That's what I'm gonna say. Right now, that's just how I stand in that situation. But Phillip Rivers, there was a lot of controversy during the offseason. Is Phillip Rivers gonna get traded to Tennessee for Marcus Mariota? That was not going to happen. And we keep Phillip Rivers in San Diego for another year. Even if Phillip Rivers wants to walk out of San Diego, we can still place that franchise tag on him, and he's back for another year. So it's either way, you're still saving up money if you're San Diego right now, and then right then and there you can always put that money into the pocket of an Eric Weddle. He's not a safety that's going to go out there and get Darrelle Revis money. He's going to get a nice hefty quarter in his pocket, but it's not going to end up being over the close to $80 million. I would not spend that much money on Eric Weddle. He's a guy that deserves a 4 to 5 year contract. Four is good, but 5 year is locking him up for long term. So San Diego does have a lot of issues right now in regards to their contract situations with their primetime players, Phillip Rivers, when it comes down to an Eric Weddle. So there's a lot of controversy going down contract wise in San Diego. Does the San Diego Chargers keep Eric Weddle following the 2015 campaign? Does the San Diego Chargers win the Super Bowl in 2015? Fingers crossed, because I'm personally a San Diego Chargers fan. Let me hear your guys' opinion about this. Hopefully San Diego does this. I am a diehard Chargers fan for people who do not know much about me. Big-time Chargers fans. Hopefully Eric Weddle does return to the team in 2016 under a long-term contract, or they can place a franchise tag on him, which will be even greater, and hopefully we can re-sign Phillip Rivers to a contract that will keep him here in San Diego for the rest of his career. So at the end of the day, guys, my name is Justin Gotze for theathleteinquirer.com, and I'll catch you guys in our next video.